Hello, beautiful world. Welcome back to Postgame with Simone. In this conversation, I have the wonderful opportunity to catch up with a beautiful friend, Ralston Evans, IU football player from the seasons of 2010, 2014. And his beautiful journey sheds light to not only identity within the sport, but when the sport stops for us, right? Due to injury, due to class, whatever it is, learning and relearning to love the sport itself, but then also learning yourself, what it looks like to truly dive into headfirst, finding out who you really are. We are so much more than our jersey. And I think Ralston's journey helps to shed light with that. So without further ado, let's get into the interview. Let's get into the conversation. So ladies and gentlemen, Ralston Evans. All right, Mr. Ralston Evans, welcome to the conversation. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm still getting used to getting called Mr. Anything right now.
Right? Yeah, I think it's like a Southern hospitality thing. I don't know, it's just a thing that we do down here.
For
So,
sure.
so I did a little homework last night.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a little homework last night, and let me tell you, Mr. Ralston Evans, you had an incredible career. You 6'4", hometown, Indianapolis, Indiana. So you're like down the street from B-Town.
Right? Yeah, so ironically though, that's like Indianapolis is actually not my hometown. Like
it's not?
Nah, like so I'm originally from New Orleans. I moved to Indianapolis my junior year of high school. So
gotcha.
Me out of Indianapolis. So that's kind of like what they do. Like they just like, all right, we got him from Indianapolis. He's from Indianapolis. So
you're from New Orleans. Okay, what parts?
So I grew up on the east side of New Orleans, near Holly Grove, like literally 4 blocks from Tulane, which
wow
is like how I kind of got my love for football. Mm-hmm. Like, because first I was a big baseball kid. Baseball was popular in Louisiana, and it's kind of like awkward there. But I wanted nothing to do with football at first until I got to high school, and then like my high school football coach just convinced me to play. And
you fell in love.
Yeah, fell in love from there. Yeah.
Wow. So that probably changes your perspective of Indiana and just your experience at Bloomington altogether, right?
Oh, yeah, a lot.
a lot. But yeah, so some of your stats, right? So you not only had, offensive player of the week, right? Several times. You were able to help break records for Indiana those particular seasons.
Again! Oh, just barely holds on to that football. Long-time Oakland Raider. Big-time compliment. Here's Coleman. Throw, yeah. Thanks, Dave.
Offensive player of the week, starting all 12 games your sophomore year, being a part of the offensive line, 3rd rank in the Big Ten, which is huge, average in sacks, and then several other Big Ten rankings that year with rushing yards and total yards. And then it only expands from there, your sophomore into your junior, and then your senior year, being a part of that team that also broke records with, was it Tevin Coleman?
Yeah, we were pretty high flying offense, and I got to play with some cool guys. Of course, everybody knows Tevin Coleman. Nate Sudfeld actually won a Super Bowl with the Eagles when they won. Cody Latimer's played in the league. Nick Westbrook, he was young, but he's playing now with the Titans, and so you got to play with some interesting cats. I played with 2 All-Americans on the offensive line, so I got to kind of do me and be unnoticed. But looking back, like athletically, it was kind of cool to play with some of those guys who people look at the league now. Like I know Jordan Howard had transferred in from UAB. They helped us out big in 2015, and so it was just, I mean, we just had fun. We just had fun.
Whether it was on the field or off the field, how does it feel to kind of hear some of those stats again, some of those things? And then you got a couple team awards as well.
Yeah, I was just like kind of like a team guy. I really didn't like, that's just the nature of like being an offensive lineman. Like everything you do is for everyone else to be successful. Like it's just like hearing it and looking back. I kind of take a lot of pride in the fact that You know, I had a running back go for 2,000 and finishing the Heisman, and you know, quarterback throwing it all over the field just because I know like the unsung heroes up front. Unless like most majority of the time people don't know my position unless they are just like football junkies or they just know football. So, but I kind of preferred it that way. I used to always mess with Tevin a lot, especially when we used to be in the locker room. Just like I couldn't imagine like just being in that limelight, like everybody knowing who he is, paying attention to him every week, and I'm kind of just allowed to just go about my business and handle things without anybody really pretty much knowing who I am unless I made a mistake. So it just yeah. So it's just yeah, you know, you kind of look back and I think sometimes you know, at the time I really didn't really think much about it. It's just like we kind of just, you know, I just kind of thought
Right.
about just went about doing my job. But then sometimes when I'm watching the Big Ten Network or something and some rewinds come on, I'm just like, man, you know, now like we were actually kind of a pretty potent offense. I think majority of the time while I was there, the only offense that was better than us majority of the time was Ohio State. And, you know, they won a couple national championships during our time and we had a lot of close battles with them. So looking back, I mean, it's like, and especially now, like actually being back working at IU, it's like you never really know, like really realize how many people pay attention to you until like you like leave and like come back, and like people are like, oh, I remember like X, Y, and Z, and you just like I don't even remember that. So like,
Okay. So, a role player, I mean, I think you need the stars, obviously. You need the star players, but you also need those players that do a little bit more work, both, you know, on the scene and behind the scenes. And you know, I know of one of your injuries, but I think you had a couple injuries during your 4 years there. And so when you're no longer able to play, it's one thing not to be put in the game, right? You're able-bodied, you're good to go, but it's another thing to be injured and have like that extra barrier of not getting into the game. What was that experience like as far as continuing to love the sport, right? But also understanding like I can't love the sport in the way that I grew up loving the sport, which was playing the sport. I have to relearn it.
yeah, nah, that was so you know, like you said, I had a really got redshirted my first year after I suffered a really gruesome knee injury when I first got there. I was a mid-year enrollee in the spring of 2011. Came in, I had a great spring ball. Literally had just graduated high school like 2 weeks ago, and now I'm on this college campus. Like, wow, like it was just like such a quick transition.
Crazy.
And you know, go through spring ball, of course, getting humble and like trying to pick up to like the college game and how much faster it is than high school. You know, everybody was pretty much stronger than me, bigger than me. So it's like really all I had was really the thing that just kind of like kept me going was just like personal pride. It was just like I mean, I'm out here, I'm here. Let me just like play my best. And I just always pride myself on like just working hard, and just playing hard every time the ball got snapped. So, you know, end up having a decent spring and just like my energy that I brought. We like I'll be the first to admit that my first year there we wasn't the most talented. I think my first year we went 1-11, I think, and so I found myself out of spring ball, kind of competing for a starting job at the left tackle spot. And then a summer workout, I believe it was like right before we were about to go home for 4th of July. I think we were just working out, getting our last little workout in. I was leg pressing, my foot slipped off the leg press, and you can probably imagine what happened next. So I won't get into too much of the details, but yeah, I mean that was tough. Rehab was tough. Took me about I said a good year and a half to feel normal again. I think I did play in one game the next year against UMass when we were blowing them out, just to kind of like get a feel for like being out there again. But um, went into my redshirt sophomore year like I'm gonna give it everything I got this summer. I knew I was still capable of play. Like I don't know if my coaches thought I would be able to come back and play, but I was like, you know, I'm just gonna give everything I got, and I was like, I told myself going into that year, if if I laid everything out, gave everything I had, if I just wasn't good enough, I just wasn't good enough, and I was ironically I was gonna go look to transfer, but told myself that was probably like the easiest way out, so I stuck it out, and then actually came out of the summer, which like a lot of people kind of don't know. Came out of the summer and I actually wasn't a starter. Coaches went in a different direction. You know, a guy by the name of Jason Spriggs who came in, he ended up being a second round pick. came in pretty much outperformed me, took my spot.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I get this right tackle a chance. And my guy, and we're still friends to this day, my guy Peyton Eckert, man, had a heck of a summer. And, he had a little bit more experience than me playing the year before. So rightfully, coach kind of went with him. And it was actually the year right before my 21st birthday. We were about to play Indiana State on a Thursday. Peyton ruptured a disc in his back that Wednesday practice. And coach called me that night because we didn't kind of know what happened to him, and was just like, Ralston, you're going to be starting tomorrow. So of course, my heart drops, and then it was from there. I just never let the opportunity come back for somebody to steal my spot again. And then unfortunately, my injury from my freshman year kind of caught up to me. I still vividly remember we was playing Rutgers, when Rutgers had first kind of joined the Big Ten. Yeah. We were playing up there and had a routine play, but I came off the field and I was something just didn't feel right. And it wasn't even nothing I didn't get hit weird. I didn't get twisted up or landed on or anything. It was just a routine play. And just my knee just wasn't feeling right. Kind of told coach, they kind of x-rayed some stuff. And then my coach, because he knew I was crazy, I would go play. I really didn't care, but he was just like, nah, we just gonna sit you out and see, wait to evaluate to see what happens. And that ended up being my last play of that year, and which at the time I wouldn't know it, but it'd be my last game that I ever played in. And right before the 2015 season, talked to a bunch of doctors, actually got 3 and 4 opinions, and made the decision to hang my cleats up. And Coach Wilson and Coach Fry wanted me around just to help learn and train up the young guys. Made me a student coach that year. Learned a lot that year though. Yeah. And ended up not playing. And it was difficult. I know we had a good team. We ended up going to a bowl game that year. Yeah. And just being on the other side, knowing how much work I put into it. I thought I had a legit chance to play at the next level. I didn't think I would get drafted, but I thought if a team brought me in, I would have a legit shot at playing. But, I always believe everything happens for a reason. Right. And that kind of kick-started, a lot of the stuff I was doing off the field, just being heavily involved in our student-athlete development department, doing programs for student athletes, end up interning in our department, and kind of got me on the career path I am on now. So, I mean, it was a blessing behind it, but yeah, that was difficult. End up going through some mental health stuff of not playing, and it was rough, but I ended up figuring some things out.
Right. Well, if you're willing to go there, I would love to pick your brain about it. First and foremost, how are your knees today? As a person who has suffered several knee injuries, I feel like I am 70 years old sometimes. How do you currently feel in the middle of February?
Welcome to the club. I mean, it has its good days. It has its bad days. Right. I do my best to take care of it. Mm-hmm. Especially now, with the pandemic, I haven't been as active as I usually am. So right. It's catching up to me, but maybe get back in that groove. But it's just been so hard, just kind of being stuck in your box. But yeah, it has its good days. It has its bad. I still try to treat it, stretch every day. Just try to do anything. I'm not a big cold weather guy, so still living in Indiana, it's still out snowing, so I'm not trying to really get outside too much. But yeah, it has its good, it has its bad. I'm try to take stuff to help it out. Yeah. And then just continually just to stay active and try to get rid of some of this lineman weight I got. So.
Oof. We gotta take care of these joints. We're nowhere near the end. I would hope, right? I would believe. And so the fact that we are experiencing this kind of pain, this discomfort, right? I find myself stretching before and after, before I wake up and then before going to bed every night. Gotta stretch.
You stretch more than me. I usually just get a quick stretch when I wake up, and then once I hit the bed, I'm in the bed. But
you can pass it out.
I say, yeah, maybe that's something I do need to do, is just start stretching before bed or something.
It wakes me up in the middle of the night sometimes.
Oh yeah. Oh, when I was still playing after,
Mm-hmm.
my guy used to wake up in the middle of the night with so much pain. That was kind
Yeah.
of like one of the things that kind of like made me start to realize that maybe it was my time to be
Mm.
playing. Like I remember, because I still went through summer conditioning and everything that summer, and then I remember just walking around, and I bet you probably know Ballantyne stairs. Oh my god, they kill me going up them Ballantyne stairs.
Ah,
It was just like
wow.
as I started to walk around campus and realize that like I couldn't really
Mm-hmm.
call it have like kind of like a semi-normal life. Like I was
Yeah.
a healthy 23-year-old kid, best shape of my life. But like if you would like look at me like walking around campus, you would think I was some old 60-year-old. So it's like
Yeah.
when I was at workouts or if I was playing, like my adrenaline was just high enough to get me through that. But then like a majority of like my pain and stuff just came afterwards. Like
Right.
staying at home, like waking up in the middle of the night, me just swollen, just all in pain. But and like just from a mental standpoint, it's just like you love like football guys. I can only speak for my sport and like my position. I feel like we love our sport so much.
Right.
It's just like who we've always been. We've
Right.
always been by like being an athlete. So like that's the
Mm-hmm.
last thing that you want to give up. And like just from a psychological standpoint, like the amount of pain and the amount of things you're willing to push your body through to play the sport that you love so much just speaks volumes. And it's like from outsiders, it's always kind of like everybody's like, well, like Russell, why would you put yourself through that? Like your life is more valuable. But at the same time, it's like the amount. Like I don't feel like people understand the amount of training and the amount of time invested into this.
Yeah.
Not just like switching a flip, like just flipping that switch. Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm done. Like my body, nah. Like
Mm-hmm.
always that voice in the back of your head, like, oh yeah, you can push through that, you can play through that. Like, oh no, just tape it up, you good. Like you'll be okay. So,
but we're trained in that mentality, right? Like that's not something that most athletes naturally have. There's a training process, right? From as early as you started the sport, it's get back up and get going, get back on defense is what I remember coaches saying. Don't worry about that missed shot, don't worry about that missed rebound, get your ass back on defense, right? And so that mentality is kind of ingrained in you. And so like as you're talking about recovering from injury and just being okay and making it to the next day, making it to the next play, uh, it's not easy to turn that off, that gear that shifts, right? That allows us to think that way. It's not easy to stop it, one, and then revert it back to no, something else needs to come first.
yeah, then with football, like the thing that got me with football, I took football to me is the ultimate team sport, especially
Yeah.
like the position I played. So it's like me going through the injury, and then my guy Nate used to always just come to me every day in the training room, like, Ralston, you okay, man? Like I need you out there, like just
Yeah.
knowing your guys needed you,
Right.
like something that like kind of keep going too, because it's just like I felt like if I wasn't out there, and granted my backup was one of my best friends on the team, I got Dimitri Camille, more than capable of a player, right?
Right.
But like I wanted to play, and when I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't out there, I felt like I wouldn't let myself down. I felt like I was letting Nate Sudfeld down. I felt like I was letting Kevin Coleman down. I felt like I was letting Shane down and
Mm-hmm.
Cody down. Like that's what kept me on the field. Like I felt like I was just like letting my unit down. So like
Right.
what would be just to play through some little bit of pain.
Right. Discomfort.
When you 18 to 22 years old, you think you can't be broken.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably, honestly looking back, I probably should have hung it up like sooner than what I did. But
Mm-hmm.
the process of like what I learned going through that, I think still serves me today.
Right.
Even in my career for now, being a young academic advisor, like I make a ton of mistakes every day,
Mm-hmm.
but I still think about that process of, like you said, like don't worry about that missed shot, don't worry about that rebound.
Yeah.
Go to the next play.
Right.
That's what it is. Just go to the next day. Okay, you didn't have your best of days. Go to the next day. Go to the next day.
Right.
Like it served me in a positive way, but at one point people thought I was crazy too.
Well, let's talk about being crazy if we can. We're going to use that word respectfully, right? Because we do know that in the mental health field, we need to be cautious and aware. But we are children. 18, well, by law, we are adults.
Yeah.
But however, 18 to 22, 18 to 23, 24, however long that you're extended out in college as an athlete, there's a level of maturity that we just do not possess.
Facts.
Okay. All due respect to like the motion or the action of growing up, right? And being able to be on your own, being away from home, however many miles away you are, right? I knew for a fact I needed to be out of the state of Texas, and then two, far away enough that my mom and dad couldn't just pop up on me on a weekend. They had to plan, right? And they had to get kind of like, can we come in? Is this okay? So Indiana was just like the perfect spot, amongst other things. But we are young adults navigating several different things. When it comes to your experience in what you needed on a mental health level, on a level of how do I give back to myself, right? We are pouring ourselves out to this university.
Yeah.
We're using our bodies to produce seats in the stands, right? We're using our talents, not only because we love the game, but because we want other people to love the game that we love, right? Inviting new fans, new generations of love for IU football. But we don't always get that check-in. I personally, I didn't know how to check in with myself, but there's not always that check-in from others, whether it's inside or outside of the sport. How did you navigate some of those tough moments, or just some of those moments where you didn't always feel supported?
Yeah, so I think for me that kind of starts at the beginning of my journey, like just for whoever ends up viewing, so like for me and my family, I was the first person in my family to graduate high school and let alone go to college. So I already kind of had that chip on my shoulder as if like I had to be successful. Like I put enough pressure on myself, let alone from external factors of people putting additional pressure as far as like athletic performance and stuff like that. So for me, that was kind of the thing that I had going. So when I came in and, I went through my injury, I kind of fell into the like, why me? I felt like I like do everything right. I went to class, I studied hard, or I worked out like I was supposed to, like just felt like I was doing everything right. And then everything just kind of just turned upside down. And like, luckily for me, like I had a great relationship with my high school football coach. Like he was the man in my eyes. Like he was the guy I wanted to be. So we checked in frequently. So like early on during that time, I was in my head badly. Like I didn't want to go to class. I stayed in my dorm majority of the time. I was pretty much eating everything that I could get my hands on. Like I'm a big stress eater. So during that time, and I wish I could have my coach on the call because he knows exactly how much I gained so much weight. Like when I came in to IU, I was 250 pounds, which may seem big to some people out there. But in the offensive line world, that is super tiny. Like the majority of the guys in my position are like 300 plus pounds, right? So at the end of that first spring, as I spoke on earlier, I was a healthy 290 pounds, feeling good, moving well. And then I went through my injury in the summer. And I think by that fall, I was close to 400 pounds. I think I was like 300 and like almost basically 400 pounds. So I think I was like 396 or something crazy like that. I'm like going through, like I felt just so alone cause like there was nobody I could reach out to my family to like talk to about, cause I mean, none of them went to college. None of them know what I'm going through. So it's like I was treading new water on my own, trying to figure out, at that time, as a young freshman, I don't know, like and this is like a lot of my advisors coming out. It's like, this is around the time where like, you got to pick a major. You got to know what you got to study. You got to start meeting NCAA benchmarks. And then I'm going through an injury. I just lost my sport. I'm hella overweight. So it's just like all these things are like weighing on me. And I'm just like, I'm trying to talk to my coach about it. And, being a young knucklehead, I wasn't trying to like hear what he was saying. So I just remember walking through the hallway one time. I think I was just going to a tutor, and my O-line coach at IU just happened to be, walking down the hallway, and I don't know what propelled him to stop, but he just stopped me and was just like Ralston, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So I was like, I really didn't know how to take it. Like I was like, what is he talking about? And it's like, I was like, what are you talking? I'm just headed to my tutor. And then he was just like, he just noticed that my whole glow was gone. I'll call it. Like I was usually like the energetic guy that came and like to crack jokes. Now I'm just quiet. I'm this almost 400-pound man, and it just kind of gave me that frying pan to the face that I needed to kind of get back to my normal self. Right. But that aside, it was just really just trying to, that injury kind of made me start to think, because I always thought I was more than a football player. I think a lot of athletes think that, I don't think people inherently just think, oh, I am just my sport. Like we all know we're still people. We all still know we got, interests outside of that. But I think that was the first time I really realized that a lot of my identity was wrapped up with me being a football player when I wasn't playing anymore, because I didn't feel like I was Ralston anymore. Like a lot of my high school friends will tell you, like, that's kind of what people knew me for. Like I played all the sports in the school, like, and went to class, so now that none of that was going right, I kind of didn't, like, I started to lose like who I am. And then just, people recommended counseling, people recommended things like that. But, just being not only a Black male and, just African American in general, you pretty much know how therapy and counseling and stuff is like in our community. Like you just don't do it.
No.
Now, like that's like the ultimate sign of weakness. Like, and it's like, and like you said, it goes back to like, and I apologize if I don't use this term right. So everybody who ends up watching, please don't kill me. When you go to therapy, people just think you're crazy, right? Like, like you immediately get equated to like he has some serious mental health condition, where majority of the time it's just I just needed somebody to talk to. And
but even in that, in understanding that that is the last straw, they even with that mentality, oh, he's going to therapy, this is the last straw, they still have a tendency to say, but nothing's wrong with you, you be all right, pick yourself back up. Exactly. What you doing?
Yeah. And then just being a man. Like, like there's like, like the world don't care about you, Black man. You don't got time, be feeling sorry for yourself. You better pick yourself up. That was always the thing. So like, of course I'm not going to therapy at that time. So it's kind of like I kind of fell into and it kind of saved me. I had a friend just invite me to Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and that's kind of like where my Christian journey started. To where I kind of turned my life over to God and stuff. But I'm not gonna go down that road. But
it's okay.
It was just like you just like not having like people to talk to and having a lot of that stuff on my own. I mean, my college coach was fundamental in that, like just giving me that tough love that I needed. He was like, "Look, man, you're killing yourself. You're falling apart. You haven't even tried yet. You already think your career is over, and you haven't even started rehab. You haven't even done the work yet to see if you can come back. I had all these doctors telling me like, Ralston, you'll never play again. And to an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, that was tough to hear.
That's death. That's
I'm in this hospital bed, and the first thing I hear when I wake up, like, Ralston, you may never play the sport that you love ever again.
It's basically telling you you're not going to be who you are.
Exactly.
Because like you said, like, your identity is deeply rooted into that sport, and hearing that is a jab at your identity, as a jab at the essence of who you have known yourself to be.
Yeah, and then so when I moved to Indianapolis, I went to a school district that honestly wasn't the best. I think we were actually one of the worst in the country. I remember looking up some data of when I graduated, of the senior class that graduated with me. We had 75 seniors, and of those 75 seniors, 17 of us graduated. Wow. So yeah, it was ridiculous. So the support I got from that class of people reaching out to me via social media, because of course the story breaks in football before, that I was out for the year, and a lot of stories come out, and people saw it in the Indy Star newspaper. So people start reaching out to me, and just was like trying to like encourage me, like, like Ralston, like seeing you go off to college, lets us know that we can make it and stuff. So I started getting that community behind me that like kept me going, and just the support that I had from my family. Like I remember my mom immediately telling me like, forget what that doctor's talking about. Like it's gonna be if you want to play or not.
Yeah.
And that's just the constant reminder that I had while I was in rehab was like, I just got to thinking about all these people, because like even my school district, it didn't get recruited a lot. So I felt like if I could go to IU and I could be successful, more and more coaches, like not even just IU, like Big Ten, out of conference opponents we play, maybe might start recruiting some of these kids and giving them opportunities to get out of tough situations. So that was kind of the thing that, like, from a mental standpoint, kind of reversed some of those negative thoughts that I had, and everything that you had to gain. And it was kind of like, even if you chase this goal, the person that you're going to come out on the other end outweighs you just losing your sport. And that's kind of like what got me through all that. But yeah, like mental healthness is tough. I saw guys deal with a lot of stuff, and especially like just being a black male. And I did eventually go to counseling, and I tell people all the time, it's probably one of the best things I did, because it let me get some things out. And then like not only that, it was tough finding a black counselor, and I felt like that was important to me, because I felt only a black person could understand stuff that I go through differently than everybody else that was on my team. Black male in America, you get treated differently. So just getting that chance to talk to a professional and like identify some things that were wrong with me that I didn't even know. When I tell you, if you ever want to get read, therapist, man, like they'll know you and they will tell you about
it's healthy.
And you just be sitting there looking at her like, dang, you ain't even have to come at me like that.
Right. Like, why you gotta do me like that?
There's this black lady, and when I tell you she ripped me to shreds, like she was like, you're just not being honest with yourself. You're trying to, like, you're already like, yeah, all this stuff sounds cute of what you're saying, but you're already embedding these little bitty excuses in there to like why you shouldn't do something. I'm just like, bro, why are you coming at me?
Okay, I mean, you're not lying, but damn.
Help me then. Like,
right. What you gonna do?
Yeah. Like now in my new professional role, I kind of encourage student athletes to be counseling and try to destigmatize it as much as I possibly can.
Right.
But I mean, it's tough. It's not easy, and we need it. I feel like, I think the NCAA should mandate every team have a sports psychologist. Like I just that's the next step of where we're heading in, especially with like now that I feel like student athletes are going to become more professional athletes, whether colleges are ready for it or not.
Right.
They're gonna need somebody to take care of that mental. I mean, really, the only thing that we don't train, we train our brains through going to class, physicals, through weightlifting and conditioning and running. But nobody ever trains our mental health.
Well, let me say this: the mental health does get trained. Just the part of the brain that we need for empathy for self doesn't always get trained, right? We are trained very much to push through, to maximize potential, to fight to the buzzard, right? Make it over the line before the buzzard. And so we do have a mental ability that is trained and strengthened. But to your point, that empathy part for self-compassion, that empathy part for understanding, forgiveness, I think is one thing that I've learned in my later adulthood after college, that I don't possess the forgiveness of self. It starts with me, right? I can forgive things, but I can always forgive myself. So that kind of brings me to, so I like what you said there. Like, I think the movement towards having somebody personal to each team, right, is important, because coaches can only do so much. We appreciate them, but they can only do so much. Our teammates, they're going through their own crap, so they can only do so much. Advising and academic advisors, their jobs don't always lend the direction of helping the student athlete in that mental capacity. So having somebody who could be just that would be a huge help. Because that was going to be one of my questions to you, is what could be helpful? What awareness do we need to bring to the table? But it sounds like, having somebody specific for each sport could be one of those things. I would also go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, but that's kind of where I go, and then I feel like with being an academic advisor, I do feel like we are that just the short amount of time I've been an advisor, student athletes, honestly, they come to advisors more often than people, really think. And I also think like representation in that area matters a lot too.
Yeah.
But yeah. I've had many student athletes, come to me, and I just think just being a former student athlete helps.
Yeah, having that lived experience,
like that sound advice, and I just think that's something like advisors probably should get trained in and dealing with those issues. And a lot of the Big Ten schools, which I come in as a conference, have sports psychologists that you can refer student athletes. Yeah. So I feel like as a conference we do that pretty well, but it's also like in some places you'll see there's one sports psychologist for hundreds of athletes. That's just not even for her mental health or his or her mental health, or whoever that sports psychologist is. It's just not, that's not healthy for them. They can't probably give that the amount of attention they want to those athletes because they have so many on their caseload. But yeah, I just feel like some of that, even with I know in my internship we had a part of our what we called our summer bridge program, where we were acclimating high school seniors at the time, because they're still high school seniors, until the fall. I don't really count college experience, but they get some of that, those talks about how to handle mental things. And it kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier. I kind of debate on those, like the mental training that you get through training. I don't really see that as mental health training.
Right.
That's more so like, I feel like a lot of the times a lot of us get through those aspects because we're confident in the physical training that we got. Like, we are hard enough to get through those physical workouts. Yeah. How can I train my mind to be emotionally enough intelligent, emotionally enough, and enough emotional toughness to get through being a first generation college student, and say I suffered traumatic loss at home, like a parent dies or like my best friend dies. That's a different type of training. That's a different type of coping to be able to, get through that. And I feel like that's where I feel like just counselors and sports psychologists like kind of have to amp their role up in being that support person for that student athlete. But I think there's a lot of different ways I feel like we can take this. But all in all, schools have to be able to allocate resources to those and find those services important.
Right. Yeah. There's a responsibility there. It sounds like what you're saying, because you're uprooting kids from what they believe is the world, right? Which is their hometown. Many of them coming from even across the country, from other countries, right, across state lines. For us, for you and I, so it's a part of, it should be a part of the responsibility of staff to not only get the kid acclimated to the university, but allow them the freedom, if and when they need it, right, to express to somebody who is confident in that particular field, that particular genre of mental toughness. So one of my last questions for you, Mr. Ralston, is how has the beauty, the love for your sport led you into your current career path as a young man, right? You probably didn't foresee yourself doing what it is that you're doing. It all kind of builds up on top of one another, right? I personally can say that my sport has narrowed a lot of things for me as far as what I want to do, or what I feel passionate about. But I also feel blessed in that, right? Because my sport has allowed me to have different relationships, see different things, experience different life experiences. So it has all led me into where I am today and beyond that. How has that happened for you?
Man, like, so kind of like how I ended up becoming an academic counselor. I think like my senior year, after, I ended up medicaling, just from personal experience while I was at IU, I think I basically had a different academic advisor every year I was there. I had just via turnover, people chasing their careers, doing maybe there's high burnout in the industry that I work in, so people pivot, switch jobs a lot. So just from a educational standpoint, I feel like that's where a lot of people, when the debate of if should student athletes get paid always comes up, the immediate response is always, well, they get a free education.
Right.
A lot of people don't know about that education. It's not really, well, for one, it's not really free.
Free.
I mean, like a lot of people, like you pay monetarily. I just pay physically with my body and stuff that,
Right.
like, that I'm, like, personally going through.
Right.
A lot of
Can't
people
ever get that back.
outside is that a lot of the times students, depending on the quality of their advisor, a lot of the times end up having to choose majors that fit within their sport. You get a lot of the times where a kid might not be able to major in something because they practice in the morning and the majority of those classes are in the morning. It's always done it that way and they're not changing. And then you got great advisors who know how to go through backdoor ways of doing it, where it's like, okay, you may not be able to major in this per se, but I need you to major in this so that when you're done, you only got this left and you can still go into the career field you go into. So get advisors like that who care and can help you, go through that. But I think a lot of the times I didn't get to initially major in what I wanted to major in. When I went to IU, I wanted to, like I said, I had a high respect, high regard for my football coach, So I wanted to be just like him. I wanted to go into teaching. I wanted to go back to the school district. Be a quality teacher, be a quality coach, help these kids chase their athletic dreams, and be on the academic side as well. So I was a little bit heartbroken when I couldn't major in education, which when they broke it down to me, I understood it. A lot of student teaching takes place in the summertime, and players do in the summertime. We have camp, we have conditioning and stuff. Is a lot of our off-season training occurs in the summer, so I understood. But as I got into the industry, when I started learning the other ways that I could have still went about doing it, I was kind of a little upset that my advisor didn't take me through that. And then after Mediclin, a lot of stuff got lost in the shuffle. There's these different NCAA benchmarks that you gotta, kind of meet, the 40, 60, 80 rule, graduate before your 10th semester, all that good stuff. So when my senior year rolled around and I was on my 4th or 5th advisor, she had kind of brought it to my attention that I was reaching my 10th semester and I had to graduate by the fall. So I ended up having my graduation process accelerated. And once I graduated, I had no job lined up because my plan was to do the one class I needed for my undergrad, do my 12 credit hour internship in the spring. And then while I was doing that, I was going to be able to attend career fairs, start getting my name, start, hitting up my connections that I made throughout my career at IU. And then all of a sudden it was like, nah, you got to be done by the fall. So I was just like, okay. So, and then, so then on top of that, you got to worry about leases. I had an apartment at the time.
How you going to pay for it?
How am I going to pay for it? How am I going to do this? And, not having a job lined up. And so I felt like, and then on top of that, I felt like at the time, I had gave the university so much, my body, my everything, everything that I did off the field, as far as, being our SAC president and really promoting our programs and change. But at that time, I kind of felt like, well, I gave this university everything I had, and now I feel like I had nothing. So trying to figure out how I was going to go about doing that, I ended up taking and then I remember our student athlete development person used to always tell us your career path will never be linear, it's going to go all over the place.
Right.
Man, was she right? I mean, my first job out of college was a sales job, which I feel like a lot of sales companies come after student athletes. I mean, which rightfully so. We're super competitive. That tends to lead you well in the sales industry.
Right.
So my first job out of college was actually I was selling mortgages, basically, is what I was doing. People who were looking for homes, we were trying to get them to take a loan, basically take a mortgage out with our company. And I absolutely hated it. I was just I'm a cold caller person. I'm such a people interaction person. So it's this sucks. And I remember I ended up quitting like straight cold turkey. Just walked in there and was just like, I can't do this anymore. So I just left. And my next job after that actually ended up being a manager for a janitorial service, which was very humbling. You know, man with a college degree sitting here mopping floors, you know, but at the same time, it was kind of like that pivot that I needed before I had the opportunity to go work at a local high school that just happened to have a support role open. And he was actually a huge IU fan. So when I applied, the principal was actually an IU grad.
Wow.
Had watched all our games, knew who I was since I was a local Indianapolis kid, and hired me and coached there. They had the opportunity to continue coaching when my coaching staff at IU got fired. One of our GAs that had been there since I had been there had got a head football coaching job at Martinsville High School.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to go coach there at Martinsville High School, and that can be a different episode because I know I don't know if you know the history of Martinsville High School, the city of Martinsville, but that was like a big ordeal for me going there. And then he ended up getting a job back at his home. But long story short, one of my advisors while I was at IU was a lady named Tasha Buckmiller. She ended up getting a job. She ended up going to the University of Illinois. They had just started their internship process, and she was like, "Hey, I know you've been trying to get back in collegiate athletics. You know, they have a student athlete development role open, and you know, I kind of like wanted to see if you were interested. You should apply."
Mm-hmm.
I applied for the student athlete development job. Knew it was kind of like sort of a long shot because, like, literally in college athletics, sometimes a lot of the great directors know a lot of people, and they kind of have an idea of who they want to hire before you even. But once I interviewed, it was kind of like, I guess they kind of like liked me and was just like, "Hey, like, would you be interested in academics?" And it's always kind of like a joke in the student athlete development side. We kind of call academics the dark side. Like it's like all like the technical stuff. It's not
right.
that good. So I was like, but I knew I could take that skill set that I learned from student athlete development and add it and bring it to my approach as an academic counselor. Once I learned the fundamentals and learned my basics, that I could turn that into like a unique perspective. So I was like, sure. I just wanted my foot in the door. At that point, if they would have just asked me to copy papers and somebody's assistant, I would have went there. But got the opportunity. Stayed there for a couple years. My home came knocking, and I just didn't want any student to go through what I went through. As far as like coming in with a certain passion and wanting to do a certain thing, and not having someone who is willing to try to help you navigate what you want to do off the field and only is wrapped up into what's most convenient for like your sport. So I just wanted to be that change. And then honestly, just to let our student athletes know, especially our student athletes of color, know that you can be something other than a professional athlete. Like you don't necessarily have to like the NFL or your professional league, NBA, whatever it may be. That doesn't necessarily have to be your only path going forward. You have the opportunity to go be that athletic director, go be that CEO of a company, go start that business, you know, go be a real estate empire, like go do all that. Like you don't have to necessarily like once your sport ends and you didn't make it in your sport, that doesn't mean your life is done or that's all that you are there for. You know, it's kind of like everything we sing with the social justice movement of people always telling athletes to just,
shut up and play.
Or like shut up and play. Like you're just an athlete. What do you know? Like I wanted to get away from. That was always like my thing when I was playing football because like I can't tell you how many times just being in class at IU, it was like I remember vividly we had a group project in a class and right before the drop deadline, my entire group dropped the class. Like it was just me.
What?
It was like so I went to my professor and I was just like. And my entire group just dropped this class. Like they all were in our group chat. Like, yeah, I dropped the class. And then, so I was like, so I need a group. And he was like, no, he was like, hey, no problem. I said, man, he said, just remind me when you come to class, and we'll get you added to a group. So I go into class, and you was an athlete at IU. Like majority of what we wear to class is
red.
Travel stuff. It's gonna have something associated with our sport because
Yes.
we had just got out of practice and we only had time to shower, eat, and get to class.
That's it.
We didn't have
put an ice bag on it. You get going.
You can go so much like in football. If you came after practice or after workouts and we were in the cafeteria eating and you walked in there in jeans,
nah,
we just assumed you were trying to impress somebody.
Right.
Who you dressing up for, bro? Who is she?
Oh my gosh.
Not in your athletic gear. It was like you better have a presentation,
right?
Or you were trying to impress somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So the professor was like, so we go into class. It was like, I was like, oh yeah, I'm just reminding you, we need.
Yeah.
So the professor was like, before he started class, he was like, I noticed our class is a little slim. It always happens. Apparently, he was like, he said, we're allowed to have groups of 4. So there were some still groups of 3. And so he was like, if any groups of 3 is willing to take a 4th member, Ralston needs a group. But everybody knew me as a football player. I always wore all my football stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I tell you Simone, nobody raised their hand. Like nobody. It was just like,
no, we don't want him. Wow.
Like we don't want him, right? So he sat there for a good 5 to 10 minutes. And I'm getting mad. I'm like, damn, don't nobody want me in that group? Cool. I'm like, all right, I'll do this project on my own. I ain't really tripping. So my professor gets mad. He's like, all right. He said, nobody wants him in a group, right? And nobody was like, no. And then the professor asked why. And somebody was bold enough to say, because he's a football player, so he probably don't do his work.
Shut up.
Why would we want him in our group? He'll probably bring our group down. And I kind of shrugged it off. It was what it was.
Wow.
I look over and my professor's over there laughing. Like he's laughing so hard. And I'm sitting, I'm like, what's funny? And then he was like, Ralston, I'm not laughing to make you feel bad. I just think it's funny that nobody knows that you have the highest grade in this class.
Shit.
And after he said that, like literally everybody in the class raised their hand to put him in our group. And I was like, and my professor was like, nah. He's like, Ralston, I'm gonna give you an alternative project to do. He said, I'm just gonna have you type this paper since nobody and you would be too much of an asset to somebody else's group. He said since your entire group quit and you had a significant amount of the coursework done anyway, we will just give you. I said I'll just give you an alternative assignment to do.
Look at that.
And I was like, cool. I was like, let's
Gucci.
So basically, I just had to take the second half of whatever that project was and just turn it into a paper.
Yeah.
Was fine anyway. It ended up being the same amount of work anyway when I looked at it. It really, truly didn't do me a favor. But it was just like, that was just kind of an eye-opening moment for me because it was kind of like, people really be thinking we just like the university just let us in.
Just jocks. Mm-hmm.
Gotta do us. And that's just what they go into my career field.
Yeah. Kind
of just encourage people to, not only take their athletic side serious, but also take their education serious, because I feel like that's the one thing, no matter when you leave, whenever your ball starts dribbling, or when you hang your cleats up, and then that's the same for soccer. I forget what the volleyball girls say, the coaches tell you, I guess whenever you stop spiking or jumping or something, I forget which one. They your degree is all you got. That's all you leave with is that degree in your experience. Best to kind of make every student athlete feel like their experience at IU is what they want it to be, or with every university.
Right.
I just want every student athlete to know that this is about to be the most fun 4 to 5 years you can have, and then you're going to leave with the degree that you want and chase the career you want, whether that be professional.
Right.
Get the opportunity to go play at the highest level of your sport, or college is your peak in your sport, and you eventually have to like hang it up. And you're just as passionate enough after that to fall into. So.
That's so great. I love how you circle back around. But I think that your example, that story is a great example of how, one, you can be identified, and how, two, you can sit in that identity. Because it can be easy to just be like, well, I'm a blank athlete, and this is what's given to me, and these are the things that I expect, right? But however, like you and I have talked about before, it's a work ethic. You got to work at what you want, and that's academically and athletically. Nothing's going to be granted to you. Your starting position isn't going to just happen because you want it to happen. That's work, right? That grade that you want, that's work. So my last question to you, Ralston, I appreciate you sharing. And like you said, you'll have to come back and join us for more conversations, because I know there's more to it, more to your story. Your 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old self, what would you give back to them? What would you give back to 18-year-old Ralston?
Man, I think one of the biggest things I would have told my younger self is to not take myself so serious. I feel like a lot of the times we don't live in the now enough. We're always thinking about, well, I got to get this degree so I can do this. Right. Or I got to make sure I hit this athletic performance so I can play this, and then I'll be able to get invited to the combine or get invited to X, Y, and Z so I can make it. Instead of just enjoying the now, especially at a place like Indiana, like you meet so many different people, so many different people from different countries come to our school. Yeah. And just the whole, all the international restaurants we got, all the
so many things.
Like how many different cultures you can have the opportunity to get some kind of involvement in. Yeah. And just meet so many different people from different backgrounds. I feel like people need to enjoy the now, not even just in college, just even in your professional life. Yeah. I mean, you see it like most of the time when people start jobs, you're always looking for that next promotion instead of just being the very best you can be in your current,
in that moment,
staying in your current moment and enjoying it. You even see it in, people's relationships and stuff like that. Like a lot of time people don't enjoy the now, and I think that's what I would have told my younger self, that because I just gave myself so much pressure when I came in. Like I said, like just being that first one to graduate high school, I was like, all right, I gotta be the first to graduate college. I gotta be the first to get my master's degree. I gotta be the first to do all this and all this and all this, and just breathe.
Yeah.
That you are technically an adult without adult responsibility. People have some fun.
Yes, enjoy
the fruits of your labor.
Yeah.
For the next thing to throw into your plate.
That's good.
And then I would have told myself to be a little bit more, not that I wasn't social, but more so professional, like social.
Yeah, network.
Yeah, it's just like with me, I'm so genuine about the relationships I form. So networking is hard for me, right? Because when you approach someone, of course, yes, a part of me, I want to get to know you. I want to know who you are, the individual, the person. But on the flip side, I struggle with, why I'm trying to get to know you as well.
Right.
Because it's I'm looking for something out of this as well. So I'm either it's maybe even if it's just mentorship, or even if it's allyship, or even if it's just me trying to get a recommendation or a reference. There's still that transactional piece about it.
Mm-hmm.
Me, I'm not a transactional person. I don't look for people to see what I can get out of them.
Right.
If I'm having conversation with people, it's genuine in that time.
Right.
I'm trying to know you. So that's what I kind of struggle with. So I'm really intentional about the relationships I form. And at first, it was difficult for me until I learned that you don't always have to go to a conference and know everybody in that conference. If you get an intentional 2 to 3 relationships out of that conference,
you solid.
What is that person who met 30 people and didn't get anything out of it? It's like the all trade, but not the master of anything.
Right.
So I would have told myself to like kind of step out of those comfort zones a little bit and get to know people earlier. Just like after going through everything that I went through,
Yeah.
I feel like I had a little bit more connections on how to navigate my undergraduate career degrees and stuff like that, and like really be intentional in talking to folks on helping me reach my professional goals and what to study. I feel like some of that stuff would have been alleviated, but those would probably be the things that I would probably give to my younger self, just to enjoy it and to just be intentional.
Ralston, I can listen to you all day. You just, I can, because I've known you, right? Like this, we have a lived experience that honestly can never be taken away from us. And just kind of watching you grow from, outside of the glass, right? Like behind the scenes has been, I've always known you to be this guy, but to see and kind of hear how you've developed as Ralston Evans is refreshing. And I don't know how often you hear this, but I want to say that I am so proud of you. Like on so many levels, I am just so proud of the young man that you have allowed yourself to be, right? Because you can fight against that. You can fight against growth. You can fight against, things that challenge us. But it sounds like right now you're in this place where you are truly giving back to what has given to you on many accounts. So thank you for spending an hour with me talking. Like I said, let's do this again. I don't think this is the end of this.
I say, while you over here hyping me up, conversations need to be the flip side, because don't act like you ain't been out here killing stuff too.
I've been doing all right.
Hide in the shadows sometimes. Doing some big things as well. I'm glad that you're putting it together, and I can't wait to see like what it blooms into be. I feel like whatever you end up turning this in direction you go into, I know it's going to help a lot of people. So I'm really excited to see and how I can help and advocate for it and help it get off the ground. But yeah, we're gonna get you one of these days.
Well, thank you, Ralston.